Peter Dumble to come and keep to the 10 minutes and introduce himself as well.
Good afternoon, everyone. I should first of all start by saying I'm talking about a project which has got a cast of thousands. This is a DFID-funded project in Sierra Leone where myself and Richard Carter are working through Adam Smith, who themselves are embedded within the Ministry of Water in Sierra Leone. And the aim of this project is, it's a water security project, is to look at a pilot catchment within Sierra Leone to see what we can learn and what we can do to improve the management of water resources for everyone within that catchment area. This is where we're working. These are the catchments on the top left of the picture there. And the Rockelselli catchment was selected because within it there's an awful lot of activity which reflects the wider issues within Sierra Leone. And we initially started in the central part of this catchment, just looking at water resources, introducing a monitoring network, because at the start of this project we had very little real data. I didn't even understand what the groundwater level ranges were likely to be before we started. This is just an illustration of the sort of activities within the catchment area. There's a lot of commercial mining. There are two large mines in particular in the catchment. This one here, the Tonkalili mine, will be the largest iron ore mine in West Africa, I'm told, as it's basically taking away a mountainside. But in addition to the commercial mining, there's quite a lot of artisanal mining going on for gold. And these are traditional sources of income for many people in Sierra Leone. But they do add to the suspended solid loadings in rivers quite considerably. Alongside those sort of issues, which are potential polluters, if you like, we've got deforestation, which has an impact on the overall water balance. Hydropower schemes. This is the one catchment in Sierra Leone where there is a large hydropower scheme, and that will influence the flows of water, particularly through dry season. And agribusiness developments as well, lower down in the catchment. And surrounding all this, there is a lot of water supply usage. There are a population widely dispersed in these catchments, and a lot of sanitation issues along the water courses. Very quick guide to the hydrogeology of Sierra Leone, very simplistic one. 80% of the country is covered by basement complex, so in a way it makes it simple. We know what we're dealing with. And apart from Freetown and a few other urban centres, there are very few distributed water systems. So something like, and this is from a 2012 World Bank Water Point survey, something like 4 million people, or 2/3 of the population, rely on groundwater sources for their water supply, and that's mainly from hand-dug wells. The Water Point survey identified 18,000 hand-dug wells, 2,000 boreholes, and the one statistic which keeps jumping out of us is that half of these are seasonal. So come the end of the dry season, people are resorting to alternative water sources. This is the rainfall pattern. Where we're working is about 3,000 millimetres per year of water, but there's quite a range from 4,000 millimetres on the coast of Freetown up to the northeast of the catchment area where we're below 2,000 millimetres. Rainfall is very seasonal, very distinct wet, dry season, 6 months of very heavy rain when 90% of the rainfall falls, and then 6 months of dry and constantly dry weather. And when we started, in fact, I don't think even we were fully aware when we started what rainfall data there was, but it turns out there are only 4 active rainfall monitoring stations maintained now in Sierra Leone. And one of them, thankfully, happens to be in our project area, McKenney. We only found that after hunting around for some time. So one of our aims early on was to develop a rainfall monitoring network alongside the groundwater and surface water monitoring that was going on. And this proved the best way to do this was through schools. And most of our network now is based in schools, or a few in local communities, where through training and engaging with the school communities. And on the bottom left here, these two people here are part of the team we're working with. We initially trained them, and they in turn went around the schools, engaging schools, teaching them how to use these rain gauges. And it's great because the schools become engaged. They obviously can use it for education purposes as well. And in turn, those people who are collecting data on behalf of this project, we bring them together. We've done this twice now, once a year. There's some sort of award ceremony to encourage and make them feel a valued part of the monitoring network. It's also a good opportunity to introduce additional training at that time. We weren't entirely sure what the quality of data would be like in taking this approach, and the good news is it's surprisingly good. This is just a snapshot of some of the monthly records that we have, but we're collecting records daily. And this is from a snapshot of 20, I think it's about half a dozen up there. And you can see, I hope visually, that there's a good correlation monthly between the data sets. We have a few problems. I think there's 2 out of 20 sites I probably wouldn't trust. But on the whole, this is good data. And it just shows you what can be achieved through community involvement. On the groundwater side, we've currently got 13 groundwater monitoring sites. 9 of them are actually in hand-dug wells and the other 4 in boreholes. And with the hand-dug wells, we came up with this as a means of installing data loggers into the wells so that they were out of the way. So by putting them inside, these are 2.5 litre plastic containers which are freely available, just drilling a few holes in, putting some gravel in as ballast, we can then lower these down and leave them sitting out of the way on the bottom of the well. And where we put these in communities, we've so far not lost any, which was mainly because we engaged with the community first. The barometric loggers which you need to work with these, we occasionally suspend inside the wells, or we have located elsewhere in the catchment area. We're training a team out there to do this themselves. So we have, this is Ishmael, but we have a group of them now who can actually program and download and collect data for us. And they're logging every 15 minutes, collecting data every 2 to 3 months. And I've established a routine program now with rain gauges sited near to the wells with daily readings from the communities. And then when the guys collect the groundwater levels, we've also got them doing validation checks with manual measurements. And this is what the data looks like. It's going to be a bit of a flash program from here on. But you can begin to see, we're beginning to get good, this is at least a year's data now, showing the response to the wet season and how long we get recession. We get very quick recession through into the dry season. So in summary, 33 active monitoring sites which have been established within a year of setting up this program. We're delivering equipment and training to different parts of the water sector through the ministry and in turn through to their district offices. An important part is engaging very much with local communities and with industry and winning confidence so that industry will share data. We're beginning to have success in doing that. And from all of this, there's an improved understanding of water resources in the catchment is beginning to evolve. There are real problems, and you're pretty familiar with all of these. Why are 50% of wells seasonal? I don't think that's because they don't, well, I think it could be they simply don't dig deep enough, but there may be other reasons as well. There's still a very high dependence on unprotected water sources, particularly in upland areas. And poor sanitation is just shocking. It's widespread, and virtually every small watercourse we come across near to populations is very heavily damaged. This was a soapbox issue, so I'm going to end on 3 points, and I won't read them out. But in introducing technology and the amount of data that we collect on these projects, when we're trying to train other people to do that, it can become overwhelming. We're trying to transfer skills to local people, And we need to get the balance right between the technology that we use and what we're trying to teach and what they're going to use that data for. It's too easy sometimes to collect too much data. We have international donor organisations offering large amounts of money to deliver lots of shiny telemetry-based equipment for monitoring. But we don't have which is great, but the budgets don't exist in country to manage these once they have been received in country. So we need to think about what the skills and institutional structures and how they are supported if this sort of equipment is going to be introduced. And the final point is, we've started bottom up in this project, but we've also formed a bridge between government and communities in gathering monitoring data. And we think this is an interesting model. We think this perhaps is a good model which could be used elsewhere. I think, particularly from Adam Smith's point of view, is this a more cost-effective and sustainable approach than maybe introducing equipment from the top and expecting people to be able to use it? And I'll leave that last point hanging. Richard mentioned it earlier. There are a lot of NGOs working around us, and we don't seem to be getting very much in the way of monitoring data through NGOs, and I think it's something which could be done relatively easily, and their data could really help to add to the sort of pictures that I'm beginning to build here in Sierra Leone. I ran over, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.